Funding Billions, episode 9, Finance America. I have a special guest, Mr. Brian Decker. He's not part of our company, but he is an interesting story and probably the most highest producing loan officer I know in the whole world. And so, Brian, let's start off with, in the last 3 years, how much has the Decker team funded?
Yeah, so we've done a little over $1 billion in total over the last 3 years between each one of the years. 2019 was right at about just under 400 million. 2020 last year was a little over 500, and then this year we'll probably do 750. Wow. Between about 750. So, hey. It's kind of as far as that goes. Pretty heavy purchase. I've always maintained usually about 80% purchase. This year's maybe 70%, just because of the kind of the refi stuff that we all are going through, but right about there.
Wow, that's amazing. So literally you joined a show called Funding Billions. So I created this show at the beginning of this year, and I was like coming up with names. And last year our branch did 1.2 billion. Right. Nice. And I go, no one, and I'm not talking my region, my just little branch. And I'm like, yeah. So now I'm able to patent the $1 billion in a year, but now I'm going after guys that literally have done $1 billion. All right. So I know a lot about you. You and I, we follow each other. We know each other. We live locally. And Brian, you're out of Temecula, California. If you guys don't know where that is, it's beautiful. And I think there was like the #1 place that people were moving to in the last 12 months was Riverside County, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and it's great. Everyone's moving out there. And so let's start with a little bit about your background, right? You and I have similar careers. I think we started around the same time. So let's start with, let's go with that. Where did you start? And I know you have a really interesting story about going to rock bottom, I think on a couch or something, if I remember correctly, and then you just blew up.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we're pretty much almost exact same age, obviously been in the same time. I got in the industry right out of college. I graduated from Biola University here in SoCal with an accounting degree, and got recruited. I never really looked like an accounting kind of guy, but it was kind of pressure in my family. I didn't grow up with any money or anything like that. And so pressure in my family was just kind of like, hey, if you could become a CPA and you work 20 years, maybe someday you'll, be able to make 6 figures a year and this and that. And so I kind of swallowed that and kind of did that through college and was really good at accounting, and ended up getting, recruited to go work at the time, the #1 CPA firm in the country, which is Deloitte & Touche. It's now just Deloitte, and worked there, was there for like 3 weeks and was like, I do not fit into this crowd. Like, I just don't see it coming. And so ended up going and started, randomly enough, a construction company right out of college. So I never really had a normal job. I kind of was just an entrepreneur from the get-go. And then basically did that, and then did that pretty much till about 2004. And it just failed. I mean, it didn't go anywhere. I didn't know what I was doing. I couldn't work my way through it. And so I ended up was like, okay, you know what? Here I am, 50 grand in credit card debt. I'm 23 years old. I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. And then I was like, oh, you know what? My 2 college roommates, they're in Orange County and they're making 30, 40 grand a month doing loans. And both of them are, whatever. They're not bright when it comes to the math world. And I was like, if I used to tutor these dudes in basic math, I'm sure I can do it. And so got in the industry kind of 2005, started at just kind of a small broker shop. I mean, you're from Orange County, and that was the mecca of mortgage at the time.
And based out of Irvine or Tustin?
I was Irvine, yeah.
Right? I knew I'd get one of them.
Yep, we were right off the 405 in Jamboree, right there in Irvine. And so just worked at, like a typical sweatshop. Went and worked for one of my buddies that had his broker's license, and we just kind of brokered loans. Luckily, it was all A-paper stuff back then. I think is what kind of saved me, truthfully. So we just did a lot of stuff brokering directly through Flagstar, really, at the time. Small broker shop, and honestly, I goofed off, man. I was not the dude that was grinding. I just kind of always got by because I was usually one of the smarter dudes out there, so I could kind of slack on my work ethic. And so we goofed off. I was funding, I don't know, 10, 15 loans a month. Wasn't really taking it like crazy serious. Saved up a bunch of money, just kind of stayed there in the world of the broker world. And then when the mortgage market kind of collapsed on all of us in 08, 09, I ended up getting a job and went and worked for a commercial attorney. and helping them do workouts. So I learned that side of it, which was really cool. Basically big, it wasn't like a loan mod. It was the opposite side. It was banks would hire this attorney to do a full analysis and see if it made more sense for them to work out a note like, hey, we're going to reduce this note down for this commercial, this commercial client of ours, or should we go ahead and just foreclose on them? And so that was my job.
What was more cost efficient for the bank, right?
Exactly. And like, could they actually service the mortgage if we, cut it by 60% or we made it this or that? So I did that for about a year. And which was amazing. I mean, honestly, it taught me everything about cap rates and, all the things in that world, which was really fascinating.
Helped you become a better investor.
Yeah, exactly. And, I was looking at tax returns for like dudes that owned like 25 Taco Bells and, looking at big, conglomerates. And so, I was looking at 1,500-page tax returns. And so that really was a really cool experience because I got now a 1065 or an 1120 or I mean, it's nothing now, obviously. And so just got recruited kind of out of that, kind of through it from a small lender called they're actually not around really anymore, but they were just a small little broker that was out in Utah, little correspondent lender. And they reached out to me and I was like, okay, I'll get back into the mortgage game. And then got in the mortgage game. And at the time I had, while everyone was kind of sinking in 08, I kind of really hunkered down and really started saving my money and, was trying to be really smart with it, was making good money, but was only spending maybe $5 or $6 grand a month and was making, 4 or 5 times that amount. So I started saving up a lot of money and my buddy of mine ended up convincing me to invest with him, with his dad. And long story short, I took the 300 grand I had saved up at 27 and invested it with him. And then 4 months later, it turned out to be one of the biggest Ponzi schemes that's ever hit Orange County. It was on American Greed.
I know what you're talking about.
Yep. He got it all taken. So I get a phone call from his dad and he was like, hey, I got some bad news, Brian. I'm like, what? And he's like, we lost it all. David Kopp was, he's gone. Nobody knows where he's at. Like he took $37 million from people and he just bounced. And so here I was thinking I was kind of riding high, 27, had 300 grand saved in the bank, making 30, 40 grand a month, saving good money. And I had literally had 10 grand to my name, like 10 grand left in my checking account. Was like, shoot, what am I going to do? Luckily I hadn't bought a house at that time because I was single. I was like, I don't really need this big house or anything like that. And then, so I literally just, when that happened, I just went and moved to a ghetto little spot in San Diego that I shared with my brother who was going to college down there. It was like $1,300 a month in like Chula Vista area, right?
That's borderline Mexico.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I was like, oh my God, how did I go from this? And I was just like, I got 2 choices. I can either whine or complain. And I did that for like, a couple days and felt sorry for myself. And then I just realized, like being down here, I don't know anybody in San Diego. Kind of all my party friends are up in Orange County. I have no distractions. And my girlfriend at the time was, in nursing school. So she was working crazy hours. And so I just hunkered down and, I knew from being in Orange County, I watched these guys do a lot of direct mail stuff back then. And so I was like, what? I got good credit still. So Amex gave me 50 grand on one of those revolving cards. So I went and did direct mail and kind of formulated a cool little system that with PIN numbers and IDs where people called in and I could type it in. This is back in 09. So the market was just starting to bounce.
It was starting to, that's when high balance started to come back, right? 2009, December of 09. I remember that. That's when December 09 for me went. I mean, I hunkered through 7 and 8, and which was cool because I would still do the broker previews and it was 100 realtors and I was the only lender, but we had no programs, right? You remember that, right? Yeah. And then December 09, high balance came and FHA was available and all of a sudden our careers went, we had something to sell.
Yeah. And there were so few of us left. I mean, all my buddies, all 30 of my friends were all loan officers, right? And we were friends before any of us were even loan officers. And I think by December of 09, there was 2 of us. That were left, still doing it. And so I literally just hunkered down and it was just me and an assistant and I had one processor and I just started cranking loans. And, I remember 2010, like I think in 09, maybe wrote 20 million. And in 2010, like I wrote like 150 million. And then the next year did like $1.75. Like Scotsman Guide had me as, the whatever biggest gainer, in the mortgage industry. And so then it started to really take off. And I was kind of naive. I was reporting which, I mean, that's a whole nother story, but I was reporting everything to Scotsman Guide, which I tell people, be careful with the IRS on that.
Right.
I always tell people on that side of it, but, I was doing that. And then all of a sudden, long story short, ended up getting recruited over at Guaranteed Rate, went over to Guaranteed Rate. And that was, was a nice experience there. And then went from there, went over to Loan Depot. And then now here I am after Loan Depot. I started on my own side and, I built a real team around me. I mean, I kind of really developed, I'm sure just like you, kind of the team model. Like we don't have a bunch of, people, and I'm sure you're going to ask me about that. So I won't steal a question from you, but yeah, so that's kind of a story, kind of in a nutshell to where I'm at today.
Okay. So let's talk about the team. What's it look like? Give me a quick overview of the Decker team. Cause I know you have your own like office, your own branch, your own entity. And I hear you got a cool spot where you can give me like a espresso or something.
Yeah.
It's like a coffee shop, isn't it? You made like a coffee shop vibe.
Yeah. I built a full bar in my office, but it's a bar as in, I mean, it looks like a bar like you would have in a gastro pub, like super cool concrete counters, like just real kind of cool vibe. Cause I wanted I didn't want people to come in and feel like it was a mortgage bank. Right. So, so what I basically originally did is just like you, I'm sure I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm writing 40 loans a month and I have me, an assistant, and 2 processors. And I'm just grinding sun up to sundown,
12 hours a day.
Exactly. Every day, all weekend long, doing that. And then I realized, and this is probably 2013, I was like, you know what? This was on like QE3. They cut QE3 off and rates jumped and they jumped hard like the end of 13. Those of us that were in there remember that. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go after some real estate business, because I realized very quickly, I was writing 90% refi. So I was doing like 200 million a year just on refi, and just doing that year after year. And I was like, you know what? Everyone's still doing refis right now. Why don't I go after purchase? Because purchase really hadn't picked up back then in, 11, 12, and 13. I mean, you had investors buying, but regular folks really couldn't. They had just gotten smoked on foreclosures still that weren't 3 years.
The boomerang buyer. I call them the boomerang buyer. They had a boomerang. They came back 3 years later.
Yep, exactly. And we didn't have any of those. And so I was like, you know what? So I realized I was in Orange County at the time, but my family and I grew up in Temecula. And so I realized, I'm like, you know what? I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to start moving out to Temecula. I think this is really pulling up. They have good school districts. People kind of got priced out of the market last time. They need to be in a recovery environment. And it's very hard to recover in Orange County or San Diego or LA when, you just don't have the opportunity to get a house for $200,000-300,000 at the time, right? In 12 and 13. So I ended up was buying some flips at the time. And went after it I figured, you know what, who controls the inventory controls the market. I've always said that. So everyone made the mistake and went after buyer's agents. I did the opposite. I went after listing agents. So I reached out directly to all the top listing agents at the time and basically sat down with them and basically, kind of picked holes in what the lenders were doing. I'm like, dude, I was a CPA. I know tax returns better than anybody out there. Like, you guys are going to have some nasty stuff coming through because people had horrible 2011s, 12s. These people aren't going to know how to read your tax returns. I'm actually on social media. I'm driving some of my own traffic. Let me start doing all your cross quals, for you guys. Because that, so they were like, all right. And so long story short, I just went and landed like 8 of the top 10 listing agents in Riverside County at the time, because I'm like, everyone's fighting over Orange County people. Everyone's fighting over San Diego County. I was born and raised.
That was my question. Did you have any competition out there?
So I did when I came out here. There was 3 guys out here that were $100 million producers that were doing purchase. So, and I'm good friends with them still to this day. James Gross is one of the guys out here. He's been kind of a long time guy out here. I think he's with Franklin American now, but he'd been a long time out here. Super cool guy. And so I came in, but they were all doing things the old school way, right? They were all doing things the old school way. And so what I had realized was when I worked at a CPA firm, the way that a CPA firm moves a file through the process is very, very cool. They have a call-in taker, then they basically have a file builder, Then it gets assigned to basically like a junior CPA. I added an ISA, and that ISA called all the leads. So I never talked to a client. So they called all those leads. Then it came in, it tagged to one of my juniors. The junior built the file, got it dialed in and gave it to me. And then once I did it, I sent it to my processors process it. And then throughout that time, basically what I did is I then had like a client concierge that was calling the client on my behalf and the realtors on my behalf throughout the entire transaction. And then I was working everything through email and text messages, and then would call the clients at like, the key points, opening of escrow, underwriting approval, and then funding. Those were kind of my things. But so I started doing that, and that worked great and got me to about 200 million. But then now, obviously, once you start, as we all know, you start doing, 150 plus units a month and 100 plus of them are purchased, you have to have a little bit different of a style of team. And so what my team now has kind of evolved to is basically I have front-end ISAs. So right now what I do is I have 4 female front-end ISAs. So everybody, and everyone's like, what? So I have 2 bilingual, 2 non-bilingual. And I tell everybody this is 2 things occur in a purchase transaction. So first is that purchase transaction, we're calling the individual. That client on the other side has either been referred to you, and they're calling you, and that's a warmer lead, or 2, it's a kind of a handoff, and the agent's just trying to get you to switch to them and get them to use you. And so that initial call cannot be a sales call. That call is a rapport and education call. Yep. And there's a reason why
you're diving in to figure out their stuff.
Exactly. Right. So, and there's a reason why when we go to a restaurant, the host at the host stand is usually an attractive girl. Why? Because it's welcoming. It's non-threatening. I mean, if me and you were standing at host stands, like that's a lot. They'd
be like, I'm not eating at that guy's restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. So I understood that psychological mindset. So I'm like, okay, it's going to be very non-threatening for a female phone call. So basically, what happens is we have a bunch of call routing. I have each one of my ISAs that are working different real estate accounts that they work through, and I have one that's working on my Instagram stuff and those accounts. So basically they are making anywhere between about 100 and 150 outbound phone calls a day. Those ISAs, each one of them, they work a lot of our agents' leads. They're driving in all of our funnel traffic leads, our radio leads, all of that. They work that, and their whole goal is to have that warm welcome phone call, basically take the basic client intake form. Once that is all taken in, every time that they touch a file, update a file, automatically formatting texts and emails directly to the real estate agents. We built out kind of our own custom CRM that I kind of built out. And so their goal, I pay them based on getting docs in the door, not based on approval. Because if I can get them in my ecosystem, then they're a client, whether it's now or in 20 years, right? And so basically they get paid hourly, and then I pay them as a team. So for every app that they get in, that whole team. So I have 4 girls and then a girl that manages that on that front end ISE. And when I used to only have 2 people that did that, and I was doing about, I don't know, maybe 250 apps a month, maybe, or so in our office. And then as soon as I doubled up, so I actually added, so I had 2 people doing it. Then I put a manager, and then I put 4 girls. So I'm from a team of 2 to a team of 5. In essence, our apps went up by over almost 200%. So they went up to about 400, just because you don't realize how many phone calls you're actually not captivating on. And so I work a rule with them, what I call as a 10-5 rule. It's 10 contacts attempts in the first 5 days that they do. And so things just don't fall through the cracks on the front end. I mean,
That's
they're
great.
just
so I do have a question on that. Yeah. Do they also input the loan, run credit as they get the documentation? Nope. So, all right. So they're just straight ISA. Okay. So I'll give you a little background.
Get the docs and apps in the door, review everything, make sure. So we use a document collection system, right? They tag everything so it's correct. Everything from our document collection gets dumped into our Encompass system that we use. So once they have done that and they're updating the CRM, once they've gotten the docs in, they basically touch a button and it formulates a cover letter that goes to the build team. And so I basically employ 4 junior underwriters on the front end. Wow. So I do 4 junior underwriters that they basically take those docs in, they build the file, run DU, order VOEs, dial in the complete file. And they're turning them quick, 30 minutes max from the time they get those docs in. Then from that point, what I do is I have a dashboard, and I basically believe it or not, I only have 4 loan officers with myself.
Wow.
So we don't.
That is efficient. 5 of you doing almost 750 million.
Yeah. So we
Wow.
do them. So I basically have 2 like senior production partners, like basically that work as, Chris and Sean. And then they basically work all my main purchase business. Then I have a Spanish speaking loan officer, Alonzo, that does all of our Spanish stuff. And then basically then I have one guy. Actually, I should say that I have 2 guys. So that's five outside of myself. And then I have 2 guys that work all the refinances that come.
Okay.
So, and it's basically a production model. And then what happens is when that build team email comes across, it tags me. I then immediately pop in, do a quick review, and then I assign it to the proper loan officer. So if it's like, I go in, I'm like, okay, you know what? This is a VA deal. Sean's stud on my VA. Oh, this is a self-employment income. That's a Chris one. Oh, this is a past client refi. Okay, that goes to Daniel. Oh, this is Spanish speaking. It goes to Alonzo. So then I basically direct traffic that way to those loan officers.
And so those loan officers are now reaching out to the clients.
Yep. And going over everything.
And going over everything, going, hey, I reviewed everything. Here's the numbers. Are you guys using Mortgage Coach at all?
So we use something similar to it.
Okay.
I kind of built it. It's very, very similar. I basically use BombBomb with templates, very similar, that we basically go ahead and use. And so the way that they do is when they take that phone call, so they go ahead and they review everything. And then through our CRM system, they have some button they can click that says manager review. So let's say for an example, like they're unsure about something on it, then they click manager review, and then either myself or my production manager itself, which I'll get into in a minute, go in and we just review it. Like, hey, I squeezed a little income. Hey, it's variable income with declining overtime, like whatever it is. I go in there, scrub that, undo the manager review. Then they call, they go through everything with the client over the phone. As soon as they hang up with the client over the phone, then they make a video walking them through, just like how I'd be, a bubble, just like how mortgage, walking them through the full pre-approval, walk them through all those details, send it off to them, CC the agents, give the agents a call, and then put it into our CRM. And then our CRM basically has automatic tasks that make them make phone calls to those pre-approval people every Friday. And then there's content. That's why I put out a bunch of content from that part. So realistically, like the front end is about 11,
people.
12 to 13 people, right?
Yeah.
So on that. And it used to be, I used to only have 2 front-end builders, 2 front-end ISAs, and the same amount of loan officers. And what I found is I knew I was growing. I wanted to really grow just through content, radio, and a bunch of other stuff I was doing. So I had to build the highways. That's why I tell everybody wrong. When loan officers always hit me up and ask things, I say, okay, you really want to grow your business, you build your highways before the business ever comes. Nobody,
you got to support it, right? Because you can't be in a situation where you're going and bringing it in and you don't give service, right? Because the one thing I always hear, like the bigger teams, they'll tell clients, they'll be like, oh, I'm 3 days before I can get back to you. I'm like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like, give me 30 minutes and I'll tell you what you qualify for, right? And a lot of times people just want to know. So I do have a question for you though. Yeah. With your model, what happens if someone just calls and goes, dude, I just want to rate? How do you guys?
So as soon as if they get that, then what the ISA goes, okay, perfect. Are you looking conventional loan, FHA loan, VA loan? What are you looking for? And they'll say, okay, sorry, just drops in. I'm doing VA loan. And they'll be like, okay, perfect. Let me go ahead and transfer you to Sean. Then we have
okay. So that was my question. So ISA, you got a guy that's rate shopping. It's one of your best realtors. You're trying to push them over to you, and and your realtor goes, they qualify, Brian.
Yeah.
Just I need you to get the deal. So they don't have to go through that process.
So and they tag it. So the way I've trained all my teams is because we're connected to all their CRMs, just like I'm sure you are. So I've taught them all in the notes that basically, and then we have a BAT phone. So I have a BAT phone. That BAT phone is one single number. So it's one of 2 numbers. So one, I use 8444 modern. 8444 modern is the number that basically all my real estate agents can call, 7 days a week. And on that number, it'll ring the phone of basically Sandra, who runs my whole ISA department. She'll then take that call, or one of the girls in the ISA will pick it up. So at any time they can basically do that. And then I do a weekend run. So what I do every weekend is one of my loan officers and one of my ISAs works full day Saturday, full day Sunday in the office. So yeah,
So I started something 7 months ago. Who are you going to call? Right? It's an email, and I distribute it out to my realtors on Saturday. It goes out at 7 a.m. It says, who are you going to call? And Jeremy Dix, right? Yeah. And we pick up so much business on Saturday and Sunday now because we're freaking available. And the realtors that work with us, Love it. They don't
Oh,
care if it's not me, right? They don't need to get me. They just need somebody, right?
and that's what I tell people. The biggest thing that, so I mean, two of the biggest loan officers in the country, Sean Benogian and Ben Cohen, have been longtime friends of mine for a long time.
Yep.
And basically, one of the things that I kind of taught them the weekend warrior thing, and one of the things that they taught me, because when they blew up their business, is Brian, get over yourself. They don't care that much if they talk to you or not. They don't. Get over yourself. They don't care.
I need to get over myself because I still talk to almost all the clients.
Yeah. And so my thing now, I probably talk to a third of the clients, probably a third, but and we know, and my agents do, just like anything else. Like we all have our agents. I probably have about 10 agents that have worked with me for a decade or more. And my team leads they know if there's a deal and they've earned that right. Hey, Brian, can you call this client for me? Yeah. I still probably have one of those phone calls a day, but it used to be like 12 of those phone calls a day, right?
Yeah. All day for me.
Yeah, exactly. And you just can't, and then you're like, it's not the best use of your time because, at the end of the day, I know my highest and best use of time is making sure that I drive traffic through the door, that my client's experience is the absolute best. So the one thing that I learned from a couple of the mentors that, I had in this industry, guys that are, their net worth is B's, not M's. And both of them told me the same thing, and independent of each other, they said, Brian, no matter how big our company goes, there's one thing and one thing only we never let go of. One of them was like, I don't know what accounting system we use. I don't know what HR system we use. I don't know any of that. But you know what? If it affects my consumer, I know about it and it's the decision that I make. And so that's the way I lead my business. So what is my customer going to feel? The speed of transaction, like obviously. 2, how quickly we pick up the phone call. 3, the experience and the education on the way it's presented to them, whether it's different options or whatever that means, the explanation on it. And then the update and the communication, and then the pricing. Outside of those things during a transaction, it doesn't really matter. Like my consumer isn't going to care that if Daniel on my team sends her the rate sheet, or if I send the rate sheet, if the information is the same and it's presented in the same way, and Daniel can do it 30 minutes faster than I can do it, then I'm doing a disservice to my consumer by making myself do it. Right.
Yep.
Because, and that's where I had to learn to kind of get over myself. And I think all of us that were A-type were like, oh, I do it best.
I could do it better. Right.
And that's the way it is, and so that's kind of how that works on those. And then from that point, then we have processors. So I have run 4 processors. So I have 4 processors. Each of them can fund about they 30 to 40 units is about their sweet spot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Do they have assistants or junior processors helping a little bit? Okay.
Yeah. So what they do is I actually one of another trade secrets that I actually learned when my buddy Sean taught me this. When he kind of grew from about 400-ish million to about 750 million, he did it in a year. And I asked him, I said, how'd you do that? He goes, bro, production manager. I'm like, what do you mean production manager? Right. And this is probably 17. So basically the same thing. I have a production manager. My production manager runs all my processors. So we have a system automatically that basically pre-creates every processor's checklist for them automatically, and then organizes the heat map of it on an Excel spreadsheet that they could kind of log in and kind of see.
Follow, right? When do we send the LE? When can we send the CD? Check marks, basically, right?
Yeah, and it gives them, and I don't know if I can share my screen. I don't mind letting you guys see it if you guys are cool with that.
Yeah, I'm cool with it.
So let me pull this.
If it doesn't work, Nate will edit it anyways.
Yeah, cool, perfect. So let me go ahead and pull up my screen here. Let's see, show all windows. Perfect. So one of the things, and this is what really, really helped me out a lot. So let's pull this up. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Screen. Okay, here we go. All right. Let's see. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this is what processors screens look like, obviously, on that. So I have my 4 processors, Connie, Christine, Jonathan, and Sophie. So what happens is it reads directly out of our CRM system that we basically use, and then we wrote code on the back end that basically when they update Encompass, it automatically comes in here and populates all this information. So what happens is like in these items, so if Connie logs in every single day, everything that is yellow is that she is her first task that she needs to get done. It turns blue when it's her, obviously when she's done that task. And then the orange ones are the urgent ones that they basically do. So it lets them know exactly detailed, the loan, the close of escrow, the program, the appraisal, if it's as is or PIW, when the CDs are signed, when the checklist went out, when the initial call went out, when the docs were in on the date, what their to do is, the dates on all of that type of stuff, and then does the same thing for every single one of the processors. And so what's nice is my processors just log in the morning, and this is all done with them. So Jonathan, when he goes and logs in the morning, is like, okay, cool. The first two things I need to make sure are funded. Okay, those are green. They've already funded. Okay, now let me handle my orange one. Okay, there's 4 liens on this one. Okay, then let me go to the yellow ones on basically on those ones and be able to do those tasks. And then I can work my way through it. And so this is all managed directly through basically a proc pipeline sheet that's all managed on the back end of it. So then they lock in to do it. And then all of that gets reviewed and organized by Excel, my production manager. So how I run my loan officer, the 4 or 5 loan officers under my side, and then just kind of the front end team, she manages. I don't know what happens once it goes into escrow, truthfully.
That's her job. She's got it.
That's her job. And she doesn't, and if she has a rare question, and then basically the clients, just like everybody else, it's all about the experience. And so, we built out so many journeys and videos. I'm sure just like you guys have done, like so many journeys and videos that every listing agent and buyer's agent and client and everything else throughout the process is getting just so many touch points on their, communications that. And then the processors, we have a group of virtual assistants in the Philippines. I have 11 virtual assistants in the Philippines that I use as my processing assistants for 2 reasons.
Okay. So they're ordering like flood and insurance and all that, all the stuff that you don't really want your high producer or your high paying processors touching.
Exactly. So they basically, every processor has one LPA, a loan officer or loan processor assistant. And basically their job is to order the appraisal, send the appraisals out. So we use a team inbox. So what'll happen is like, they'll be able to send emails as the processor too. So having so many consumers or contacts, right? Mm-hmm. So a client basically, so my front end ISAs, they work from a team inbox. So it's not like a realtor is not seeing 7 different, emails. They just use a team. And then obviously then it's just a loan officer and the processor. And so the LPAs are the ones sending out the appraisal when it comes into the client. They're the ones that are going in and, ordering the insurance, ordering the VOEs, ordering the title, ordering the subordination. So, and what's nice is we actually pay them like 2 to 3 times what like the normal salary is there in the Philippines, which is still really affordable compared to here. So like the normal person in the Philippines, and they work in an office that we have out there in the Philippines, and they're all there. And then we have Zooms, just like how I'm Zooming here.
That's great.
They have a Zoom meeting every day that Excel runs, and then we work them split shifts. So we get 24/7 processing support because some of them will work our hours Pacific time. The other ones will work, Asian time. And so when the processor comes in the morning,
there's a lot of tasks, a lot of little stuff's already taken care of. It's a great system. Brian, you have the best system I've ever heard, right? Yeah. I've interviewed everyone, I've coached, I've done everything. Your system is by far the best. Your Excel spreadsheet, I would do a screen share, is the exact same as mine, by the way. I was laughing, awesome. Literally the last name, the loan number, the log, the CD, Matt, I was sitting here chuckling going, oh my gosh, we're exactly the same. I just don't want to pull up my email because there'll probably be 200 emails and I'll take my eye off the price. All right, let's change it up.
Yep.
Your daily schedule.
Yep.
I saw it on Instagram. Yeah. Your daily schedule. I'm a machine. You are the Terminator. So just go through it real quick and tell everyone what, like, you start at 4, I start at 5. So go for it.
Yeah. I mean, I tell everybody, do not I believe that I have crazy ADD. Like I had crazy ADD as a kid. My parents never, but I was smart. So it was just that I had an insane, it was more like hyper, And so what I did is I learned how to really focus, like all that extra energy and really kind of hone it in. I'm almost 40. And so it's taken me a while. And so my schedule and the way I work and run is not designed for somebody that doesn't have like crazy ADD. Like I have crazy ADD energy like that. So I can do this. I tell everybody don't try to mimic this schedule because I don't wish it upon anybody. This isn't like my ideal schedule I want to keep forever. But basically what I do is I time block everything. My entire day, from every meal I eat, from what time I do at the same tasks, are all done the same day. So I wake up at 4. I get up at 4 in the morning. The first thing I go ahead and do for the first 30 minutes of my day is I go in and I basically go in, I check any of my investments. I go in and I'll go through and just do a quick scan of any emails that came through the night before, just anything I need to prepare to be able to do my to-do list. Then at 4:30, I get in the car, I drive to personal training. The whole way there, I listen to a podcast. Almost every podcast I listen to is either it's split between crypto and real estate. So I listen to a lot of stuff.
You. What podcast? What's the number one podcast in real estate?
Probably the number one. I probably think We Study Billionaires is probably the number one I do. It's really cool. It's 2 guys that are just absolutely brilliant minded. And they go ahead and they basically study how billionaires have made and become billionaires. And 2, then they also do 1 crypto thing per week based on kind of that. So I really like that one a lot, that I specifically do. And then I also listen to one called Bankless. It's basically how the world is going from centralized to decentralized, in terms of banking and all of that. And then I really like Anthony Pompliano's podcast called The Pomp. And it's really good. It's just like an overall business podcast, investing podcast. So then I don't ever listen to the radio. I don't really watch TV. I mean, I watch football. I'm a diehard football fan, but outside of that, and so on my way to personal training, then at personal training, my sales manager, my business partner, and myself, we have personal training every day at 5 a.m. So it's good because it allows us.
Oh, wow. So you got 4 of your team members working out with you.
Yeah, 5 in the morning. So it's awesome because it allows us to chop shop before the day gets started. So we do a lot of our stuff. So we do that while we're working out. That finishes up at 6. Then I do cardio till 6:30. While I'm on cardio, I do all my social. So when I'm on my cardio machine, I'm sitting there and I'm, putting my first social post up for the day. I'm writing content. I'm listening to it. So I write a lot of content that way. And then obviously drive to work. I get ready at my office. People laugh. They think I must live in this golden shower. No, I get ready in the sink of my office. I wash my hair in the sink because it saves me time because I live out in the wine country, So I'm usually at the office by 6:30, hit my desk by 7. And then as soon as I hit 7, I hit all my urgent tasks. So the night before I plan my day out, I time block. So the first hour of my day from 7 to 8 is handling all my most urgent items, whether that is, making sure, we were able to get a contingent sale, final CD, particularly closed, or whether that was a save a deal file or making sure, a rush 21-day escrow of one of my clients, whatever first hour of my day, I handle my urgent tasks.
You get because you got to get that off your chest to move on for the rest of the day, right? To be productive. Yeah, I always the first 30 minutes of my day, I tackle the hardest stuff first. And then the rest of the day could be productive because if that just lingers, it just lingers. And then the rest of my day is unproductive.
100%, 100%. And then after that, from 8 to 9, I go over all the tasks for my team. I go through all their to-do lists. I go ahead and make sure everything's dialed in for them on all those items. Then basically from 9 to 10 o'clock, I tackle any new files I have for the day. So I'll go in and bang up all if I'm doing 2 or 3 pre-approvals. Actually, I won't usually do more than 2 personally, more than 2 pre-approvals a day personally. Of just kind of VIP clients. So I'll bang those ones out real quick. Then I'll loop around from 10 to 11. That's when I do my first meeting. I'll go through a marketing meeting. It'll alternate between a digital marketing meeting or at a real estate office meeting. Where I'll go in and train a realtor. 11 to 12 o'clock is always my free time to do that. So normally that's either one, if I have something like this for media relation stuff, I'll do that at this time. If not, what I'll go ahead and do is at that time, then I'll go ahead and scrub all of the pre-approvals that came in the previous day that all my loan officers did to make sure all the systems were updated. I get a daily report that says, oh, so Chris forgot to update this status or that. So I'll use that at that time. Then basically I'll time block again. The next time block I'll scrub all my files for that day, go in and do updates for the next hour. After that time block, I have a content shoot. So I shoot content for an hour that I'll write all that content. Then I go back and then mind you, every 15-minute break, I do an urgent folder. So I'll kind of show you guys kind of quickly on this, give you kind of a little behind the scene look on this. So what basically I go ahead and do, you guys can probably see that. So on my main
Urgent.
email,
Yep.
yep,
29 urgent files.
yeah, so exactly. So the way it works, I have somebody that works my email for me. So Roxy, my EA, works my email, responds to my email for me on my behalf. She is basically my traffic monitor. So like I've been on this for a while, but I only have 17 emails in my inbox because she just cranks those out and I get 4,000 emails a day, right? So what she does is she'll either respond as me, or if she's unsure of her response, she'll drop it in my urgent folder like this one. So if I go into my urgent folder, she'll go in here and I have all my urgent folders. So when I get off this, I'm only having to look at these particular response emails in my urgent folder. And then tasks, if it's an email that came in that it's a task I need to do, she's dropping it in my BD tasks on there. And so I have 3 tasks that I have left to do today. And then blue will be a follow-up tag. So I live and die by a tagging system in that. And then basically then every email that comes in, she files it into a file laters folder. So if I want to get a full rundown on my full day before I log off, I just scroll through and do a run day, and then she press a button and all my emails that are in my file laters automatically will go in and they get properly they get properly organized in whatever the client's name is. And all my emails are first name, last name, close of escrow date, and then what LO is running point and what processor would be on that one. And so they automatically get, put into that amount. And so that's basically how I'll kind of run my emails throughout the day. And then basically after that, 2 to 3 o'clock, I have another meeting. Usually that one's like some type of like either training with either my loan officers, or that's training with our front end, or that's going and, doing a presentation of some sort to a real estate office. And then 4 to 5, I go back through, do a scrub of all the files that I have for the day, make sure all the pre-approvals are basically out for that day. Any new contracts are out for that day. And then basically at 5 o'clock, I make all my calls for that day for any new contracts. Once people have gotten off from work, I'll bang those calls out from 5 to 6. Some Tuesdays and Thursdays, I coach my son's flag football team from 5 to 6 to do that, which is.
I got practice today.
See? Yeah, dude. Yeah. Best, man. It's
so fun.
Oh,
we're third, fourth grade. So I've had the same kids. And it's legit, man. We're like shotgun, motion, fake one way, throw the other. It's awesome. It's like running a little pro offense. It's so much fun.
It is, man. That's like my thing. My kids are 5. I just started doing it this year, and it's just unbelievably awesome. And then really 6 to 8, I spend time with the kids and the wife. I just kind of unplug, and then 8 o'clock. We put the kids to bed, and then from 8 to 9, I'll plan out my day for the upcoming day. So I use a focus planner. It's called Focus Planning. You can buy it on Amazon. It's awesome. I love it because it only gives me 3 important tasks at the top of my schedule I'm allowed to do. So I can't put 5 in there. So I got to really force myself.
You got to really force yourself to the 3 biggest things that are on your plate. You wake up, you tackle those things. Yep.
Exactly. And that forced me to time block. And then once that's done, around 9 o'clock, then from 9 to 10, I'll post all my social content, respond to additional social content, write additional content, like listen to a podcast. And then usually by about 10:15, I'm out, and then alarm wakes up.
Do it all over again. You're a machine. You are the Terminator, man. I thought I was great, but holy smokes, what you do. But I mean, you are an entity though. You're like a branch. You know what I mean? Like, you're not just an individual LO. I mean, you are the thing, right? And that's kind of where a lot of the $100 and $200 million producers go, how do I get there? Like, what's it look like? And it's not working in the business, it's working on the business. And you're the prime example of how to work on the business and take yourself out from running credit and doing this stuff. You're like, no, I'm going to have someone else do that. I'm going to have someone do this, right? And really doing the stuff. So look, I know you're time blocking, and I'm not as time blocked as you. So let's just jump into the main thing is your social media is money. You have what, 26,000 followers on Instagram?
Something like that on that. And then like 80 or 90,000 on Facebook.
Right. You are like, I follow you every day. I even comment. I write to you all the time when you put cool stuff. You reply back to me. How many people you have? But let's quickly start with your social media. I mean, you do spend a lot of time. You do a lot of, like, I'm a dinosaur. I just learned stories about 6 months ago. And then all of a sudden I started seeing these little, I was like, oh, I'll just see what Brian talks about. And you post almost daily. You put amazing content. So you have to have help. Tell me you have help.
Yeah. So yes, I have help shooting it, but all the content I write myself. So here's the thing. So I read an amazing book, and I told everybody, it changed my life. So I got on Facebook and was doing videos on Facebook probably like 2014, 2015, and they were pieces of you know what.
Yeah.
Like they just were. But I understood well enough that the generation of individuals that were going to be buying homes, they are going to want to buy with somebody that they deem to be a local market celebrity, right? And I understood that. And so I started doing that, but I'm not an Instagram. I mean, I'll be 40 in whatever, 6 or 7 months. And so I grew up on MySpace, you know what I mean? And that's like what we had. So I learned Facebook and I kind of got into that. But then I really, about 2 years ago, I read a book and it's called Killer Content Marketing. It's by Joe Paluzzi or Content Inc.
Write it down.
Yeah, write it down. It's freaking awesome. It's Content Inc. And one of the things that completely changed my mind was people, you think about some of the biggest kind of movers and shakers of anything in the world. And what do? They don't have a product, they have content. They have content and a network, right? And there's something called Metcalfe's law. And what Metcalfe's law is, the value of something is the size of your network or your user base multiplied by a certain power. That's how you value networks. As you think about how are they valuing Facebook? Like Facebook doesn't have a product. Facebook is a network of users and they sell things to their network. So I understood, like Kim Kardashian, everyone may hate her, but the chick's almost a billionaire. And you know what? Why is she that? Because she has a network. She built an audience through engaging with them. And then she can sell anything to that audience. Yeah. Ever, right? It's a built-in annuity, no matter what. If you want to do mortgages, if you want to do real estate, if you want to do coaching, if you want to do investing, whatever you want.
Daily face cream, right?
Yeah, exactly.
She's the queen at that, right?
Exactly. And so she built that through content. And you are much better off. So that book just changed my life in the way of, okay, I need to do content. Okay, how am I going to do content? What do I need? So I hired an in-house videographer. Full-time. So he's in my office full-time. I got somebody that's young. He's only 23 years old. And then hired a full-time graphic artist. So those are the only 2 people I have on my team. The graphic artist, what I do is I go in and I find content that I like. So I'll find a particular crypto article, particular whatever, keeping current, matters article or whatever it is, bigger pockets article. And I'll send it to my graphic artist. He'll read it and put that into the form of a storyboard, whether that's a carousel on Instagram, whether that's an image on Instagram, or anything in that regards for that. So, and then basically I have my videographer and I pre-schedule things with him. So I do 2 shoot days with him. So I'll shoot my podcast on Friday mornings. And then basically I'll shoot usually a video there. And then on Wednesdays, I'll shoot videos with him as well. And then basically for my content, I use notes on my phone, just like the iPhone notes tab. Anytime I hear something or read something or listen to it in a podcast, I take a note down on it. And then what I do is I utilize the pattern of consistency. So I try to think of myself as, okay, at the end of the day, I would rather put out really good, sharp, educational content on a video twice a week, maybe give something poignant to them once a day, and to put a bunch of random stuff out there, because you want people to like aspire or wait or be anxious for your content to come out. Right. And the only way to really do that is to study. And so for me, like, I don't watch TV. I don't listen to the radio. Everything I listen to in my free time is to grow. And I'll be very frank. I mean, I didn't do that 3 years ago. In the car, I was listening to the radio. I'd watch TV with my wife every night on random dumb shows that, it didn't make any difference to watch, and half the time, neither one of us are really fully paying attention to it. And so I read Content Marketing Inc. and I'm like, okay, the best way to learn something is to be able to teach it. Right. So I'm like, if I can learn these things and I have to teach these people these things on videos, my IQ financially is going to go through the roof. Because if I'm having to teach 2 or 3 topics a week constantly, it's like with if you go speak at a realtor conference, you're studying for that, you're learning for that, you're educating for that, and then you're using that content in your daily throughout it, right? Yep. And so that's what I started doing. And the key is the way, if you're going to break it down, you have to understand that different platforms interact with different types of content. So your stories on your Instagram, that should always be a behind the scenes look, right? Always be behind the scenes, something that they're not going to get somewhere else. IGTV should always be your educational, kind of your longer form, 2 to 15-minute content. You always want to make sure you use really, really good thumbnails. You want to make sure you hashtag. When on your hashtags, you want to do what they call ladder hashtagging. So what ladder hashtagging is your hashtags, if you type in a hashtag, it's going to give you how many posts are on that hashtag. If I do hashtag Bitcoin, it's like 7 million posts, right? Well, the chances of me making it into the top page on Bitcoin when there's 7 million posts isn't super high. So what you do is you ladder. So let's say you want to do 10 hashtags. You'll pick 2 that are in the millions. You'll put 2 that are in the 100,000s, 2 that are over 50,000, 2 that are under 50,000 and whatever, 2 that are like very specific for your niche, like whatever, loan officer life or first time home, whatever it is, right? So you're ladder that. And then what you'll basically do is when you plan out your content, what you got to understand is you got to realize then you got to do reels. The whole point of reels is like one topic really, really quick, right? Like it's like, very, very simply, simply put. And so in a reels, you got to use their features to get discovered. It's just, so it's all these different forms of content, but you're reaching different people based on that content, right? And so I tell everybody, it is the hardest thing to be consistent about. But if you can be consistent and make that commitment to being content, watch your net worth grow. Like my net worth has tripled, if not more. And I know it's 100% completely related in the last 2 years to the amount of content I've had to produce because I'm constantly having to teach myself new things, right?
That's awesome. It's awesome. So my wife, she was way bigger into Instagram. She had like 10,000 followers in like 2017 and then like deleted her account and then came back. She did a reel, right? She does a lot of cooking, right? Yeah. She makes her own bread and stuff. She did a reel and I guess they go live to everyone, right? Anyone could see them. She had 5,000 views on some like cooking bread and stuff. And she had like Frank Sinatra playing and it was pretty cute, right? Yeah. And she's like, this is the wave, Chris. And I'm like, oh my goodness. She's like, look at this. She's like, I picked up 1,000 followers, right? And I was like, holy cow, over cooking sourdough bread.
Yeah. That's why I tell people, figure out your thing. Like, so my thing was crypto, right? Like that was one of my things because I tell everybody this, nobody gives a crap about mortgage unless you're getting a mortgage or you're a real estate agent. That's it. So your audience and your ability is to actually turn it into money and revenue because it's one thing to be able to put a lot of content out there. It's a completely another thing to actually convert that into revenue, right? So that is where a lot of people figure out. So people are like, well, how are you turning crypto into revenue? Because guess what? People want to follow like my niche is like, I understand that people that follow crypto and wanted to get into crypto, it's, my personal opinion, it's the way blockchain technology, no matter what, it's the wave of the future. I mean, it's blockchain just as a technology is going that way. Now, crypto itself, people think it's all a currency. It's not all currency. It's just, that's like saying finance is all mortgages. No, it's a category of things, right? So what I realized was, okay, crypto, one, I did it an avatar on it. The average person that owns crypto has a 4-year education. The average income, somebody in the United States that owns or interested in crypto makes over $85,000 a year. The average person that is in that range is under the age of 35 years old. I'm like, that sounds like a pretty dang good home buyer avatar.
Right. That's your next wave of home buyers.
Exactly. And so that's where I chose because you have to use a very consistent color palette. You have to use a very consistent amount of the consistent posting schedule. And more importantly, they have to know what they're going to be tuning in for. People know they're either going to get real estate investing advice for me, like on what that's, or they're going to get crypto. They're going to get some form of how to make money, whether it's through real estate or through crypto. That's what people know they're going to come to my channel for, and they're going to, or follow my profile, and they're going to get that consistency, and they're going to get it taught to them in a very easy manner. So I tell everybody, if you want to create content, don't just sit there and go and create a bunch of mortgage program videos. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to care. You're going to, and that's it. Now, if you're going to try to be a mortgage lead generation company, then yeah, I mean, my good buddy Min over at
lost you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I lost you for a second there.
Yeah, no worries. I was saying my buddy Min, he did, whoops, the internet. That's so weird. Saying internet connection unstable. That's weird. And they're hardwired in. But I was going to say is they need to pick something like your wife's brilliant, right? Cooking. Okay. Cooking is brilliant, right? So if I was a loan officer, Or if I was you and you want to blow up stuff on Instagram and your wife's an amazing, my wife can't cook. So that was, that's out of it for me, but if your wife's a great cook, dude, guess what? People want to tune in and learn cooking all the time. And guess who people really like to cook? People that usually own a home. You don't find a lot of people that are like big time chefs and they're trying to do it from their crappy little apartment. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like,
I'm gonna tell her we're gonna have to work together. Hey, bud, I'm gonna respect your time. I know we've said until 12. I got one question.
Yeah.
Last question. What out there like challenges you're facing? And it could be with crypto, it could be with real estate. What's the biggest challenge that you're facing in your market right now?
I think two things. One that I'm facing is the ability to find and train talented people, the time it takes to train talented people. And one of the things we all do it, right? So I completely changed my mindset. And one of the mastermind groups I'm kind of in we go to, it's a bunch of big time mortgage company owners. I mean, I'm by far the smallest dude there. And we were just in Nashville for 6 days. And one of the things I realized, this was everybody's pain point. Like, man, I just can't hire. I want to grow, but I just can't get the right people. I can't get the right people. And one of the guys there, I won't mention his name, but he owns a huge mortgage company. And he said, you're never going to be able to find the right people. You're never. And the ones you are going to find that you're going to do, you're going to have to pay him $200,000 to be a processor. You're going to have to pay him, an 80% split to be a loan officer. You're just getting into a game of just everybody's raising that bar. And so it changed my mind. And he said, if you want to do them, you train them, you build training. You bring people in that work hard, that are smart, and you put them in and you train them and you promote them, or you train them and they don't work out, you fire them. And so that has been the hardest thing for me, was to get around my mindset, because I had that small little group of people that were my loyal soldiers for, there's been like 7 of them that have been with me for like 10 years now, or almost, And so the thought of hiring and building and then having to train and then to fire people if they didn't work out, it's scary and it's hard, right? So the growth, finding that equal balance of growing, where we all want to balance a life. Like, I'm sure, the money you make now, you never thought when you were a kid that you would ever make the money you would do. And if you did, somebody told you would make that money and how much to have that much saved up, you're like, oh, I'm done working.
I don't have to work anymore. Well, why am I still here?
Exactly. And why are we still working the hours we do? Right. So I think for me, the scariest thing is where's that perfect balance of growing? Like, my ambition leads me to want to have a 500 or 1,000 person company, but my home and my joy and my happiness where I'm at comes from being with my family and kids and time. So it's that balance of ambition with the balance of, of wanting to be happy, I
get it. And so I'll give you this. I call it the farm system. I hire all young kids, and that's what I do. But we don't do a lot of training, but I literally take one in, junior loan officer, put them under my wing, they sit in front of me, and within 2 years, they're a superstar. Yeah. Right. Yep. The key is keeping them, right? You got to keep them, right? Because that's the problem is the 3 that I have right now, they're really good and they're not going anywhere, and they're all becoming their own desk, right? Their own entity, and they're staying and they're loyal. But there's been ones that I've trained, and like they went from 10 million to 50 million to 80 million to 200, and they're like, thanks for everything for the 5 years you poured into me. I am my own entity. And you're like, but that just happens. It's taken time to accept that. But it's just trying to, and I think you go young, no one that knows the industry, and they come in and the hardest thing is they just got to work hard. I don't really care about anything else. I don't care about hustle mistakes. Mistakes I could deal with. Laziness, I hate. Right. And so I call it the farm team. You got to have an 8. It's like minor league baseball, right? A team, B team, C team. And there you go.
Absolutely.
So, hey, Brian, you were an amazing guest. You were awesome. We will get this out to you. Thanks everyone for listening, Funding Billions. And you guys definitely have to follow Brian. What is it? The DECKER team?
It's at Brian DECKER.
You're right, because there's some fake accounts out there that
I get a lot of spammers nowadays.
Right. So, all right, man, you're awesome, and keep up with the crypto updates. I know my whole office talks about it every single morning. All right, man, I'll talk to you.
All right, we'll catch dinner soon. Have a good one, bro.